So one of my favorite facts or evidences from creation has to do with the field of science known as genetics or genomics, and that involves the sequencing of human genomes. So over the years, thousands of human genomes, tens of thousands of human genomes have been sequenced, and that includes chromosomes like the Y chromosome, which is the male sex chromosome, and that's passed on only through the father's line with no contribution from the mother, at least when we're talking about the male specific region of the Y chromosome. And so geneticists use that portion of our DNA to basically trace our ancestry back. And what's amazing is that this was done by evolutionary geneticists, not creationists. And what they found is that all humans trace their ancestry back to a single father of the entire human race. And they nicknamed him not mitochondria Eve, I'm getting ahead of myself, Y chromosome Adam. And actually 10 years before that, and around if I'm thinking correctly, 1987, around then, there was a major paper that was published, and they found a very similar outcome when they were sequencing the mitochondrial chromosome, which is the chromosome that's in the mitochondria. So it's useful for, it's required for life to produce ATP, the energy molecule that fuels life. And that smaller circular chromosome, the mitochondria, is only passed down to the mother's egg with no contribution from the father. And so just as with the Y chromosome, it goes back to one man, well, the mitochondrial chromosome goes back to just one mother of us all. And they nicknamed her Mitochondrial Eve, as I just gave away. So this is remarkable because, coming from an evolutionary point of view, they would say, well, they have no relation to the Adam and Eve of the Bible. The timeline is wrong. The geographic location is wrong. The starting population size, or at least the bottleneck that we supposedly evolved through, is around 10,000 for the effective population size. That means reproducing members. And that's different than just the Bible, where you have two people created supernaturally by God, Adam from the ground, Eve from his rib. Very different scenario, you'd think. But yet, there's more than just data involved with this, because we're asking questions about the past and we weren't there. And so, inevitably, you have to come up with presuppositions, and your interpretation of the evidence is colored by really your worldview filter. Long story short, when you strip away the evolutionary narrative that is not scientific, it's more based on philosophical presuppositions of common ancestry and assuming certain things about past mutation rates. And so what we find, though, is that the evidence taken at face value is consistent with a literal Adam ancestor, which would effectively be Noah, more accurately, and an Eve. So, and I gave a full long talk on that, but to me that is one of the most exciting evidences. They never anticipated that. I mean, years ago, before genome sequencing, they believed in what's called the multi-regional hypothesis, where they had people evolving in parallel on different continents through Homo erectus, and there was no idea or trend whatsoever saying that we would all come from just ultimately two people, which they say are the most recent common ancestors, which I would say are actually the biblical Adam and Eve, or the biblical Noah and Eve. So to me, that's like, does it get any more obvious than that? Unfortunately, though, what they do is they tend to not just present the data, but they also present their interpretation of it, which again is always colored by their worldview filter. So we need to learn how to separate the evidence from the interpretation and how it's influenced by those presuppositions. So that's just one, but I can think of many.